Joining me now from the DNC Convention Center in Chicago, Mitch Landrieu, National Co-Chair of the Harris-Walz 2024 campaign. Mr. Landrieu, thank you for your time tonight. Obviously, the mood among Democrats going into this convention is much different than just barely a month ago when President Biden stepped aside and the party coalesced around Kamala Harris. And we've got new data from ABC and the Washington Post showing just how much ground Harris has gained. She's ahead of Trump nationally at 49% to 45% among registered voters. We'll note that's within the margin of error, but a vast improvement from where we were just a month ago. How do you build on the momentum this week?
Well, Reverend, thank you. It's great to see you. And, of course, it's great to be here in Chicago. You know, a lot has changed in the last 30 days. But the one thing that hasn't changed is Donald Trump is still a convicted felon. Donald Trump has been determined to be a sexual abuser, a business fraud. Donald Trump was a terrible president who left the economy of this country in a shambles. And Donald Trump is about darkness and grievance. That has not changed. And he hasn't said one thing or done anything to change the way people in America feel about him. But what's changed on our side is that this side of the ticket is fired up and ready to go. As you can tell, there's a huge amount of excitement, hope, and optimism. And, by the way, thanks to President Biden for the incredible decision that he made, one of the most selfless decisions I know that you've witnessed in your incredible life, to basically put us in a position where Kamala Harris and Tim Walz can bring us into the future that has been dying to be born for quite a long time. So a lot of excitement, a lot of joy. And, of course, you see people around the country responding to that. You know, look at the folks that are showing up in the places where they're going. It's really just an incredible thing. I've never seen it in my political lifetime, and it's something for us to savor and enjoy. However, the vice president will tell us all the time, keep your head down, keep your shoulder to the wheel. This is going to be a very, very, very close race. Everybody's got to get out and vote. And if we do that, we're going to have a brighter tomorrow for all of us.
Now, the Harris-Walz ticket kicked off its bus tour of swing state of Pennsylvania this morning en route to Chicago and the convention. I want to play another moment from the campaign stop earlier today in Rochester, Pennsylvania. Take a listen.
This campaign is about a recognition that, frankly, over the last several years, there's been this kind of perversion that has taken place, I think, which is to suggest that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, when what we know is the real and true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what we see as strength. We know what strength looks like. That's what strength looks like.
Mr. Landrieu, what can you tell us about the vice president's message Thursday night at the convention as she accepts the Democratic nomination?
Well, first of all, amen to what she just said. Secondly, remember, this is she and Tim Walz's second time around the block. They've been to all the swing states already, and they're starting the second time. Donald Trump's been kind of hanging out in front of his place at Bedminster talking about Cheerios and whatever else he was talking about. But in that very small clip, you saw a very clear difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's vision for America. Donald Trump's vision is to tear people apart. He has pitted father against son, mother against daughter. He really doesn't have an economic agenda. All he wants to do is give tax cuts to the rich and tear everybody down because he thinks that's how you win, and he thinks that's how you bring America back. Kamala Harris, though, her vision, and Tim Walz is, listen, when we are together, when we include everybody, when we lift everybody up, not push everybody down, that's when America is at her greatest. And that is what she's going to lean into on Thursday night. She'll put a little bit more meat on that bones, but essentially what you really just need to know about it, she believes in America where everybody has a seat at the table, and Donald Trump believes in an America where only he's sitting at the table.
Former President Trump held his own rally in Pennsylvania last night where he went on a tirade of attacks against Vice President Harris, calling her both a communist and a fascist, and going on an extended rant about her laugh. Trump has also apparently changed his mind about campaigning during the Democratic convention, announcing a series of events this week, supposedly on the economy, crime, and national security. What do you make of the message Trump has been sending Americans at this point in the race?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, when he's talking, he's generally lying. And in the last couple of weeks, people are wondering whether he's cray-cray, because we've been thinking about this for a long time. He doesn't know whether he's coming or going. He's like a lost ball in high weeds. So you can't hardly understand anything that he's saying again. But that's who Donald Trump is. If you want chaos, if you want somebody that is constantly tearing somebody down, and let me just say this, if I might just lean into this. He seems to have a real problem with the fact that he's running against a woman who is black, and he can't understand that whether she's Indian or she's black, and he's concerned about it. So let me try to explain it to him, although I can't understand it for him. You can actually, in America, be two things at once. You can be Indian and you can be black. You can be Irish and you can be Italian. Or you can be ignorant and arrogant like he is. Because in America, we believe in everybody coming together and doing one thing and lifting everybody up. And so he doesn't have an economic plan. All he has is a plan for himself and his friends. She's got a plan for the future, and I think the energy that you're seeing out there right now is a wellspring of support across the political spectrum, by the way, across geographies where people are finally saying, you know what, I can see a brighter future. I like the fact that we can be strong and kind at the same time, because that's what America is really about, and she is the epitome of it.
Let's switch to the vice president's emerging economic plan. You served Louisiana for several years as it dealt with natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina. Your background was one of the reasons President Biden tapped you to help implement his signature infrastructure law. Having seen how policy plays out in the real world for decades now, how will the Harris economic plan, centering middle-class tax relief, housing, and lowered costs, positively impact real people, and can it appeal to Republicans and independents?
Well, 100%, because she is going to be focused on building up the middle class. That's where her focus has always been. That's where it's going to be. Donald Trump's is on tax cuts for the rich, and then grievance. Hers is for dealing with all of the things that people suffer with every day. And Tim Walz and her have been out there talking about a little girl from Oakland, a little boy from Nebraska, coming together to make sure that we lift up everybody who needs help. And whether it's going after big corporations that are price gouging, or these new housing co-ops that are causing people to pay more rent than they're supposed to, making sure that groceries are lowering their costs, and just giving people a chance. Just giving people a chance. People who have talent, give them the opportunity to perform, and then America's going to be fine. And she's going to help make that happen. But we got to keep our shoulder to the wheel. Tough race coming. We got to work hard every day, because it's going to be a goal line decision. We got to make it happen.
All right. Thank you, Mitch Landrieu, national co-chair of the Harris campaign. I'll probably see you sometime this week, I'm sure.